Hey, what's up YouTube? Just wanted to do a video covering citadels and everything that I've learned so far, from how to find them to how you can maximize your number of crisis fragments that you drop from each of your citadels. And as always, I do some research beforehand and before releasing my own video and provide with the most up-to-date information of the findings, at least I try to. And I've seen some videos from Exile Angela, Localhaul, Beyond Ice Gaming, which I'll be linking in the description down below, but various theories as I go through some of these concepts. And that's going to be the first thing that I'm going to talk about, how to find citadels. So there's a couple of theories going around. So I think Localhaul and Beyond Ice Gaming have discussed some theories on how to find citadels, some of which are as follows. So lost towers, seeing them is indicative that there's going to be a citadel nearby, or to some extent, when there's a citadel, there's going to be a lost tower. And next is going to be corruption, could be indicative of a citadel. So when you're near a citadel, there's probably some corruption nearby. And third is that citadels seem to spawn near water. So those are some theories. And the fourth one is going to be that citadels are likely to spawn a minimum distance away from the burning monolith. So if you guys didn't know, citadels essentially drop fragments which allow you to use them as entry tickets when you get one of each to the burning monolith, where you can do the arbiter fight. So yeah, so I think out of all those theories that we've seen so far, the first three theories do seem like confirmation bias to me when it comes to using lost towers as an indication that there's going to be a citadel. Firstly, I think there's no way for us to make that knowledge to be used to our advantage, because lost towers just exist everywhere. Next is going to be that corruption is indicative of a citadel. Here's just one example of no corruption being nearby to the citadel. As I've worked through my way through, you could say that this is in the vicinity, but then again, once again, I've seen no clear indication that citadels are near corruption, or you're able to use that to your advantage. Thirdly, being near to water, like what is near, what is far, I don't know. And honestly, pathing to areas with water, in my opinion, is going to be a bit trolling, because citadels cannot spawn on water, and the more water you find as you path to the towers near water, the less of land you see. And I'll talk more about that in just a bit when I describe how I find my citadels. So some people have been saying that it's been working for them, but I'm using a completely different approach to how I find my citadels. I found more than 20 at this point, and I've been approaching it very, very differently from what other videos have been theorizing. So out of everything, I believe like one thing is kind of proven, and that is the whole atlas. When you load in, you have probably a random seed, and it's probably pre-generated. There are some people with fully bricked atlases where they just cannot path out, and it's just an extremely unlucky part of the draw. And the other thing that we know is that every biome has a specific art associated with it. And with that comes the biome associated with where citadels spawn near. So you'll be able to see, like for example, this Iron Citadel, you'll see a lot of these little farms. And the moment you see a lot of these little farms, there's 100% chance that there's an Iron Citadel near this, even if you are far away. Let's say you only path to here, you only can see in the fog of war to this area, you see this farms, 100% Iron Citadel exists. And the other citadels have a lot of tells as well. So just to pull out some examples, let me just bring up this over here. So you will be able to see that the Copper Citadel, for example, has these little tentages from similar to what you'll see in Act 2, a lot of these like little tents and stuff. And once you see this, even if you're in the fog of war, you don't see the citadel, but when you see this, you know that there's a Copper Citadel nearby. And then for the Val Factory, you would be able to also see very similar things. And that is going to be the very stone citadel-like structures where you'll see these columns. If I just find one very quickly over here on my atlas, over here. So you'll see the stone citadel, and in the near vicinity, you'll see a lot of these little towers nearby. So that's the other thing that's going to be proven. When you come into the vicinity, even though you don't see the citadel and you see these things, you will be 100% sure that the citadels corresponding to the little art forms on the atlas will mean that there is a citadel nearby. So that is at least what is proven. So essentially, this allows you to be able to find the citadels without seeing the actual citadel. And for the first 1 to 2 weeks as I was mapping, I didn't really take notice of all of these little cues. And when I went back and actually scrolled through my atlas, I actually found like 2 to 3 more citadels. And just by spending like 1 minute of scrolling, you can actually find a lot of tells where these citadels are with that knowledge in mind. So I've actually found 2 to 3 more in my atlas, and this is one clear example where I went back and just scrolled through the corner of my atlas to find the areas that's unexplored, and lo and behold, I found a stone citadel, but it's across the river, so I will need to path around to be able to get there. You can see that it's fully blocked, so I probably need to go from up here all the way up, and we'll probably see a stone citadel right over here. So yeah, you'll be able to scroll through the fog and be able to find these citadels through using 2 main methods, and that's hovering over the edge of your maps if you've already explored a very big atlas. For me, I hit level 96, I explored a lot of the map, done a lot of maps, so you have a lot of explored areas. So just scrolling through the corners, you'll see a lot of these tells, and that's number 1. And second thing is being able to hover over biomes, over the maps towards the corner of your screen and identify these maps. So previously I covered a sheet on the different map tiers, and what I've done was being able to pull together all the different maps with the help of Musty and Camo, which maps spawn near the citadels, and these are what I would like to call citadel specific maps. So you would notice as you do citadels, if you've already done a few, that there are very specific maps that spawn near these citadels. For example, Channel spawns near the Copper Citadel, Gothic City and Penitentiary spawn near the Iron Citadel, Headland spawns near Copper, and then for a few of the others like the Stone Citadel, you have Val City, Val Foundry, and Sun City, Sun Temple, for example, that spawn near those citadels. So I have the sheet link in the description below for you to be able to learn which of these maps spawn near that. So just to illustrate this in game a little bit clearer, I currently have an Iron Citadel that I have not done yet, and you'll see near this Iron Citadel there's Gothic City, and yeah, these very biome specific maps. Necropolis is another one, and if you, for example, path to here and this is all you see in the Fog of War, and then you hover over Gothic City on top of the art that you see, you can be 100% sure that there is an Iron Citadel nearby. So at least that's how I've been approaching finding these citadels. And when you are kind of like just pathing and zoning, you can use a lot of these to your advantage to find them. So most of the time, however, you will not have any tells on the map. You don't see any of the nearby maps. You don't see any art that indicates that there's citadel nearby. So how do you path to get to the city as close as possible? So contrary to what the other content creators have been suggesting, which is path near to water, find corruption, how I've been approaching and how some of my viewers have been approaching and having great success is going to areas with the most amount of land possible, to towers which give you the most amount of vision possible in the least number of maps. So for example, in this area, it looks really good to path to this tower because it is in a completely unexplored area, in a position that's in the most central, most amount of land surrounding the Lost Tower as possible. Citadels are not going to spawn in water, and in my opinion, this is what I'm going to path to. Instead of pathing to something that is very near water, like this one, that there's a water body here, you're going to see a lot of area where it could be water further down even. But for myself, what I would do is pathing to a tower like this one in a very central place of landmass to see as much land as possible, and then pretty much maximize your chances of finding citadels, and I've been finding great success with this simple approach. So of course, you may have a lot of different maps that you have to do to reach them, but just do it in the shortest amount of maps possible. Reach the tower, and then you can see as much of the map that could spawn citadels, in my opinion. So for me, currently it takes 1 to 2 hours on average to find citadels. It could be sped up a little bit more if I run lower tier maps, skip breaches, and things like that. But still, once again, I want to caveat that there's too little data to go around, and these are just theories on my part, on probably the other content streamers, creators' part, and the theories are just currently my own opinion, and I believe that those other theories are heavily confirmation bias. So yeah, not something that I'm using currently to find my citadels. And that's what I want to talk about on how to find them. Next, I want to talk about how you can drop a multiple crisis fragments. So I'm not sure if you guys know, but you can drop multiple crisis fragments. I'll be linking an Exile Angelus video in the description below, but essentially she talks about how you can find multiple fragments, and this is something that we've also been seeing on Reddit, and in parallel I've also been doing quite some testing in my previous streams on getting these multiple fragments fragments, and currently the theory stands that we can find only at most 3 fragments per citadel, and I've been trying to collect some data on my end as well. So the initial running theory was that waystone drop chance affects the number of fragments. So I started going ahead and doing maps with higher percent fragment chance and trying to record how many fragments we drop. So you can see that, at 730, I have dropped 3, 680 dropping 2, and then doing it over 1,000 drops 3, and we've never gotten more than 3, essentially is what we have understood so far. And judging by the looks of the data, the highest that we've gotten of 2 fragments is 753 that dropped 2 fragments. So I think one of my viewers had this, and going a little below that, you can see over here 730 dropping 3. So you can see that there's no hard breakpoint where it drops more. At least we have not found it yet. And so what we have theorized is that probably, according to these approximate benchmarks, 300% chance, 200% waystone quantity drop chance could affect the chance to drop 2 fragments. Could have a chance to drop 2 fragments, and over 400% waystone drop chance, you would be guaranteed to drop 2 fragments. At least that's from what we have seen. And about the 700% is where you can start dropping 3 fragments, but it's only a chance. And over 800 is where we have had 100% chance of dropping 3 fragments. Once again, not that much data yet, but we are collecting them as we go. So these are kind of the approximate waystone drop ranges that you'll be expecting to drop that number of fragments. So this percentage refers to not the percent on your map. So you can see in the map, you can see various waystone drop chances. So just hovering over a random map over here, you can see this is a 290% waystone drop chance. And this is not referring to this, but when you open your map, the chance. So I'll be talking about how you can craft a map in just a second. So next I want to talk about is going to be the Atlas passive tree and how you can spec your Atlas to maximize your waystone drop chance when you open your map. And that's going to be speccing into modifiers like this, which scales the waystone modifier effect, scaling the explicit modifiers, and hence increasing the percentage chance to drop waystones in your map. So apart from scaling into these little points that give you additional explicit modifiers, that's why we spec into unstable energies as the only keystone for this strategy, and that is going to be increasing the effect of prefix modifiers or suffix modifiers when you open maps at a 50-50 rate, in my opinion. And currently, if you scale your suffix modifiers, that is going to be the win. If you guys didn't know, the number of suffix modifiers affects the number of waystone, the amount of waystone drop chance that you get, and prefix modifiers do not in any way modify that percentage. So what we're going to be going for is going to be maximizing these suffix modifiers. So on top of that, apart from scaling the prefixes and the suffixes on your maps and the effect of explicit modifiers, there's these little points at the end that gives quantity of waystones, and these little points at the top that allow you to scale your precursor tablets. So for precursor tablets, that is where we have the default ones that irradiate your maps. And for those precursor tablets that irradiate your maps, they have a chance to roll a modifier that says over here, percent increased quantity of waystones found in your maps. And from what we have seen, these towers occur pretty frequently on your Atlas. You can see near this Iron Citadel, you have at least 3 to 4 towers in the vicinity that you can path to increase the amount of quantity. And you can see I have not done this yet. Putting in 2 tablets over here increases the waystone chance in the area. You can see the third line there. I cannot press alternate to show you, but the third line here shows 37% increased waystones found in area because I put in 2 tablets. I think 19% and 18%, giving me 37% increased, allowing me to increase that waystone drop chance even further, which we assume is going to affect the chance at dropping the crisis fragments. So yeah, using waystones to your advantage, and therefore we spec precursor tablets, and that's why we spec into these to increase the effect of the precursor tablets, 20% chance to double the effect, and 3% increased effect of explicit modifiers on the for each of the precursor tower affecting the Citadel. And we're taking all of these points over here. Definitely these 3 points will help, but currently as we spec into the precursor tablets, in my opinion, these are going to be very effective, especially because you will see tablets to be applied to these Iron Citadel in the pathing towards the Citadel or in the vicinity of the Citadel to bump that effect up even further. So that's it for the how we can kind of scale our passive tree. And the last thing I want to point out is going to be the boss passes. Currently, there has been no indication that the difficulty of the boss will increase the quantity of waystones. So technically, if you don't have a build strong enough, you can unspec out all the boss difficulties. So these pinnacle bosses or these guardians in your citadels are not as difficult. So that's another thing to keep in mind. So that's it for the Atlas passive tree. So next is going to be how you can craft your maps. And as I mentioned before, these suffixes affect the amount of waystone drop chance. So 3 suffixes generally will give you somewhere in the ballpark of 250 to 330 waystone drop chance. But that's where we want to get it a little bit further. So currently, as it stands, about a 440% map drop chance, so 400 to 400 plus percent. It is where you have around 5 suffixes on your maps to guarantee 2 fragment drops, and somewhere around a 500% map is going to be essentially a 6 suffix map to guarantee 3 fragment drops within your citadels. And here's the different ways on how you can get that. The 3 main ways to craft your maps is firstly transmute, aug, Regal. You get a 3-mod map. You can see 2 suffixes, 1 prefix, 195%, and then using exalts to slam 2 prefix, 2 suffix. You can see still 195, and then you slam a suffix here, and you can see it goes up to 320, and then the last one is going to be a prefix for a total of maximum 3 prefixes and 3 suffixes on an uncorrupted map by default. So this is the baseline way. Alternatively, you can use alchemies to alch your map to give you a 4 modifier map. In this case, 3 prefix, 1 suffix, you have a 90% waystone drop chance, slam, and then you get a 325. In this case, pretty high rolls currently for these maps. And then the last way is going to be using a dextral omen, which guarantees maximum suffixes, and then allowing you to use Orb of Alchemy, and then consume that to be able to give you 3 suffixes. So currently a dextral omen costs 1 exalt, and it's very good to be able to decide whether you want to continue using your map or not, and essentially allowing you to save exalts if it rolls modifiers that your build currently cannot do. So for example, if you roll like pen, maybe your build is not LEB capped plus minus max res, it could be very detrimental for your build. So just this allows you to be able to see all the suffixes before you complete your map by slamming on the prefixes, for example. So currently this looks like a pretty okay map. Maximum additional projectiles apart from Copper Citadel. I don't think they really use that much projectiles for the Iron or Stone Citadel. So this is a very nice map. So there are various outcomes, which is the next step of crafting your maps, and that is going to be using the Valorb. Before I talk about Valorb, there's actually one more thing that you can do to be able to juice up your map further, and that's using Distilled Emotions. So currently, Distilled Emotions, if you check for Distilled Envy, this is the one that we're going to be going for, and they currently are almost 3 exalts each. So let me just buy a bunch of them and show an example of how you can use them. So right-clicking on the Distill Emotion allows you to open this window, put your map in, add in the emotions, and you can see that adding 1 Distilled Envy increases the waystone, the amount of waystones found in the area by 30%, and putting more just adds up to 90% of this. So currently, the strategy that I'm using is put in 1 Distilled Emotion, and that is because it is not very cost-effective to be able to add 3 Distilled Emotions onto your map, because generally the voling outcomes are not going to be in your favor for the most part, because there are various outcomes that you can expect when you vol a map, and that is having no changes to your map, going up a tier, going down a tier to tier 16, tier 14, which does not affect us at all. If it goes down, you cannot use the map, but if it goes up, it doesn't really affect the fragment drop chance. Adding suffixes, removing prefixes, or the vice versa, where it removes a suffix and adds a prefix. So with a lot of these outcomes in mind, there's actually a very low probability of hitting a map that allows you to use it to drop more fragments. Because what we're going for is a map with 5 suffixes or 6 suffixes to be able to run them on your citadels. And because of this, even when it does add a suffix and remove a prefix, it can do between a range of 1 to 3 prefixes of suffixes getting added and removed. So let me just show some examples. Over here, I got 350, 355, and 335. And I'm just going to slam 3 of these. One of it went up a tier, no change in quantity. This one is a great example where it did go up. This is another great example where it did go up exactly like what I wanted to talk about. But essentially here you can see that it's adding a lot of suffixes over here. And you can see this has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 suffixes, giving you a 510 map, I think. If I'm looking at this right, oh, actually it's a 6 with Ellie Week over here. Oh, it's actually 5 suffixes. And over here on the other example, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 suffixes, giving us a 460. So you can see that once you hit 500, this is the amount of waystone drop chance that guarantees 3 fragments to drop in your maps, because you will have enough increase effect to be able to scale it past the breakpoint that I talked about earlier, and that's around the 800% waystone drop chance, and the effect from your waystone from your tablets that you put in, the increase effect of map modifiers on your Atlas passive tree will scale it up into your map to go past the 800 mark. So that is that. And essentially, the best in slot, in my opinion, in terms of crafting is going to be adding one distilled emotion, because the delirium also adds a benefit to your map, and that is going to be having the boss do a roleplay of the delirium mechanic, which gives you a lot more time to do damage. But do keep in mind that the maps will become very difficult as you scale the increased effect of map modifiers, and modifiers like haste, for example, with penetration could be extremely detrimental if they do some elemental damage and you don't have enough elemental mitigation or effective hit pull to be able to survive these maps. So just keep in mind that your maps will become very difficult as you scale the difficulty further to drop more fragments. So that is how I'm crafting my maps, using one distilled envy alongside crafting my maps using dextral omens and then slamming it and then volleying them. So that is my approach to farming them. So currently, as it stands with the current fragment prices, copper citadels drop up to 7 divines from doing one single map. So that's going to be the Faded Crisis fragment, and you can see that it is currently 220 exalts. So that is at current prices, 2.2 divines per, and it goes even higher, right? As you can see, currently it just went up to 224. I think at some point I've seen it at 230. Essentially, what it means is that if you drop 3 Faded Crisis fragments in your map, you drop 7 divines straight up at current prices. And the other citadels essentially will be giving you somewhere between 1.5 to almost 2 divines from dropping 3 fragments, and it's extremely lucrative to be able to farm these citadels. And currently I've been doing some testing, it takes about 1 to 2 hours to find a citadel, and when you find the copper citadel, it is essentially a jackpot. One more thing to mention is that the copper citadel has a bug where the lady who's blocking the sand sometimes may run away. I faced that once. I bricked my 7 divine map and essentially lost the map because the lady moved away. So do keep in mind, I think recently on Reddit someone posted it as well. So that is what I wanted to talk about. So do aim for a higher percentage quantity waystones map, especially when you're doing Copper Citadel. Use your highest one, ideally 500 plus, because essentially dropping an additional fragment will give you about 2 point something divines additionally. Last but not least, let me know what you think about the tech in finding citadels, if any. I'll link all the videos from Localhaul, Exile Angela, as well as Behind Eyes Gaming. Let me know what you think, what has worked, what hasn't worked for you, and do let me know based on your experience, and happy to find out more about your strategies and how you find citadels, as well as how you scale the increased waystone drop chance in your citadels. And if you like this video, feel free to like, share, and subscribe, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye.